This bloodshed will end. That's President Trump vowing to keep America safe and obliterate terrorism in the wake of the London attacks. But leaders on the left are trying to stand in his way, criticizing policies that he says are meant to protect the United States. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington this morning with more on that. Hey, Griff.
Hey, Rob and Jackie, good morning. President Trump responding to the London terror attacks last night at a fundraiser here in Washington at Ford's Theater, vowing to do what is necessary to protect the American people.
This bloodshed must end. This bloodshed will end. As president, I will do what is necessary to prevent this threat from spreading to our shores and work every single day to protect the safety and security of our country, our communities, and our people.
It was his first public comment since the terror on London Bridge and comes in the wake of a series of tweets in which he offered support to Londoners in a renewed call for his travel ban. He said, quote, "We need to be smart, vigilant, and tough. We need the courts to give us back our rights. We need the travel ban as an extra level of safety." That tweet, just hours after the attack, drew criticism and sparked a debate on the Sunday talk shows. Former National Security Advisor Susan Rice says there's no evidence that the travel ban would keep us safe.
There's really no evidence to suggest that by banning Muslims or banning Muslims from a particular set of 6 countries that we would make ourselves here in the United States safer. And that's, I believe, one of the major reasons why the courts thus far have been very skeptical of the travel ban.
To recap, the ban would halt new visas from being issued in Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. And it follows the administration's push just last week, Thursday, in court filings where the administration asked the Supreme Court to immediately reinstate this travel ban. Rob and Jackie, I'm guessing we're going to hear a lot more about this this coming week.
Yeah, geez, it never ends with this news cycle. All right, Griff, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Griff. Well, immediately following the attack, President Trump took to Twitter condemning London Mayor Sadiq Khan for his political correctness in response to the terror attack.
Yeah, here to weigh in on that is Jim Hansen. He is the president of the Security Studies Group. He has also led counterterrorism operations in the Army Special Forces. Jim, thanks so much for being on today.
Good morning.
Let's start off. President Trump wrote out that tweet saying that, giving the mayor some, giving a bad time about saying that you shouldn't be alarmed. That might have been taken out of context. But this is also a mayor that said that, terror attacks are part of living in a major city. What do you have to say to the way he's handling this so far?
I think it was probably a mistake to make the tweet about the being alarmed statement. However, Mayor Khan has had some very sketchy connections in the past. He was a member of the Muslim Council of Britain. He publicly supported Yusuf al-Qaradawi, who is a Muslim Brotherhood leader, who has said some horrific things about suicide bombings, about oppression of women, about any number of other things. So supporting a guy who said those awful things and being a member of an organization like that. In addition, he also said that the July 7th, 2007 bombings, where 52 Londoners died, were caused by British foreign policy. So I think if the president sticks to legitimate criticisms of Mayor Khan, perhaps he can push him in the right direction.
Well, speaking of things that Khan has said that's gotten people a little heated, if you will, listen to this. This was a tweet that was just sent out. I think maybe it was Saturday or Friday before the massacre. This is a tweet. It says, "Climate change remains one of the biggest risks to humanity. Now more than ever, world leaders must recognize and act on this threat." Really?
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't think so. I think climate change is obviously an issue. It is hardly the national security issue of the day. And I think if Mayor Khan would spend a little bit more time looking at the jihadists in the midst of London, rather than worrying about that, he might be doing his fellow citizens a better service.
There's been a little bit of chatter, and I know there was one question on MSNBC that was asked in regards to the thinking that President Trump may want terrorist attacks to happen because it works towards his agenda. But I think you could also say that many on the left are trying to deny that they occur. What are your thoughts there?
You know, that's kind of an obscene thing, but it's unsurprising from the fever swamps of MSNBC. The president is trying to keep the world safe, and he's trying to implement policies that will keep us all safe. So when you've got liberal activist judges substituting their judgment for his about national security, they've subverted the proper role of the separation of powers in the Constitution. Hopefully, as Griff Jenkins' report said, the Supreme Court is taking up the president's travel ban. They should overturn those halts to that travel ban, and now we can stop people coming here who don't share our values.
Yeah, I imagine that travel ban is going to be big, especially in the next week, talking about what it could save and how it could save us here in the U.S. from any potential terrorist attacks. Thank you so much, Jim. We'll have you in the next half hour.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Jim.
Excellent.
And the time is now 7 after the hour. Russian President Vladimir Putin sending a strong message about the coverage and creation of fake news. Listen.
You created a sensation. Out of nothing. You people are so creative over there. Good job. Your lives must be boring.
All right, well, what he had to say about the accusations of his country meddling in the U.S. election.
Also, immigrant outrage. The state now helping immigrants to get their driver's license, illegal immigrants, by offering them free translators. All right, we are back with a Fox News alert. Texas Congressman Louis Gohmert ripping PC culture in the wake of the London terror attacks. Gohmert saying liberals are too soft on terror, and that helped lead to President Trump's election.
We have seen these things coming. We've been trying to talk about them and let people know. The Heartland knew these things were coming, and that's why they elected Donald Trump. So thank God that he understands the seriousness of this issue, and he's not being distracted by people that want to scream about political correctness, because we're talking about people's lives.
Gohmert also blasting the judges holding up the president's travel ban, even calling for them to be, some of them, to be impeached and thrown out.
Thanks, Rob. Out-of-control violence sparking multiple arrests as liberal protesters try to shut down a pro-Trump rally in Portland. 14 people put in handcuffs as protesters hurl bricks at Portland police there, some describing the chaos as a war zone.
Hate! 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 I'm here for 2 reasons, and 2 reasons only. I am here for freedom, and I am here for God. Find it in yourself to make this day positive, with no hate and no violence.
Officers confiscating weapons such as knives and brass knuckles from protesters. Portland's mayor came under fire for trying to shut down the pro-Trump rally, citing safety concerns. Organizers refused to give in and held the rally anyway. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson speaking out overnight after 4 Arab nations cut ties with Qatar. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and the UAE severing diplomatic relations over accusations Qatar supports terrorists.
We certainly would encourage the parties to sit down together and address these differences. And if there's any role that we can play in terms of helping them address those, I do not expect that this will have any significant impact, if any impact at all, on the unified fight against terrorism in the region or globally.
As for Qatar, well, it plays a major role in fighting ISIS. The nation says there is no legitimate justification for the diplomatic changes. Rob?
Days before former FBI Director James Comey testifies on Capitol Hill, the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee admits there is no proof of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign.
There is a lot of smoke. We have no smoking gun at this point, but there is a lot of smoke.
Well, Comey heads to the Hill on Thursday, 1 month after being fired. The president is not expected to use executive privilege to block Comey's testimony, although we've seen a lot of that kind of talk in the mainstream media. Meantime, Russian President Vladimir Putin is shutting down claims that Moscow interfered in the presidential election. Putin telling NBC's Megyn Kelly last night what President Trump has said all along, that this is fake news.
I haven't seen even once any direct proof of Russian interference in the presidential election in the United States. You created a sensation out of nothing. And out of the sensation, you turned it into a weapon of war against the current president. Well, this is, you know, you people are so creative over there. Good job. Your lives must be boring.
He says it like it is, I guess.
Right.
Putin also calling reports Russia has damaging information on the president, quote, a load of nonsense.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
All right. right, Janice Dean is live with us this morning here in the studio. It looks like it's going to be another wet one here.
Yeah, all along the East Coast, huh?
At least the lawns are green,
right?
Here in the
Yeah,
Northeast, we've seen
green. Yeah,
our share of wet weather, and it's cool outside. It's going to be like this much of the work week. 59 right now in New York, 69 in Cleveland, 63 in Minneapolis. Cooler temperatures across the Great Lakes and the eastern seaboard, and we're just dealing with a mess of wet weather. All of this Gulf moisture working its way in towards the southeast, the mid-Atlantic, and the northeast. So this kind of weather is going to be sort of what we're going to be dealing with throughout the work week. I have a picture to show you guys. The internet was taken by storm by this image. I saw this yesterday. This is out of Alberta, Canada. And when I saw it, I was like, is this for real or not? And I hope you guys can take that lower third off, because you can see a guy right there in his backyard still mowing the lawn with a tornado in back of him. His wife took the picture, and he said he had some chores to do, and he had to get them done. So this fella out in Alberta, Canada, said he was keeping an eye on the weather situation.
What?
I know. I didn't believe it when I saw it, but it's real.
I know.
Those Canadians.
I thought it was fake.
That?
You know, they said that it looked closer than it really was. I don't know. That's too close for comfort.
It's in the background.
I know.
Get out of there.
Gutsy move. I like it.
Those Canadians, they're hardy folks.
Talking about it right now.
Yes, thanks so
they are,
much.
right? You're one of them. Thank you.
You got it.
All right. Well, a Fox News alert for you. Coming up, it is the second terror attack in just 11 days. So will the UK finally confront the growing threat of radical Islam? And what can the U.S. do right now to combat terror? A former U.S. Army intel officer weighs in next.
Plus, some in the mainstream media floating a narrative that President Trump is trying to provoke terror attacks.
The president doesn't want us to be politically correct, right? So let's not be PC about this. Is the president trying to provoke a domestic terrorist attack?
Good morning. It's now 20 minutes after the hour. Major cities around the world are falling prey to attacks from radical Islamists who are. So what are some of these lessons that we can learn from their mistakes, and how can we apply it here at home in the U.S. to make sure that we stay protected?
Here to discuss is former advisor to the U.S. and NATO commanders in Afghanistan and former U.S. Army intelligence officer Andrew Peek. Andrew, thanks so much for coming on. What really breaks my heart is when we keep seeing over and over that the individuals involved in these attacks are known to officials, and you know that some investigator saw this coming but couldn't do something about it. Is that the biggest lesson we need to learn, is to how do we change that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's thousands of people in the UK who are under surveillance at any moment. 3,000, I think, is the current number, and 500 open investigations. Intelligence is clearly the key to this battle, and the most important kind of intelligence to determine which of those 3,000, at least in the UK, are threats is human intelligence, the local community leaders and Muslims and imams who can tell us who's been acting bizarrely, who's been acting strangely, and who is an imminent threat to the safety of their fellow citizens.
President Trump tweeted this. He said, "We need to be smart, vigilant, and tough. We need the courts to give us back our rights. We need the travel ban as an extra level of safety." That's something we're going to hear a lot about. We heard a lot about on Saturday. What do you think about getting this travel ban back?
Well, I think the president is absolutely right in moving the conversation beyond the usual PC platitudes. We don't know yet if the travel ban would have prevented this attack. We don't know if it, we don't know a lot about the attack. We don't know the names of the attackers. But what he does do very effectively, I think, is cut through kind of the PC nonsense and the identity politics that prevents any common sense measures towards surveillance of these communities that are at risk for terrorism in the UK or US.
Yeah, you know, the travel ban, I think, is a tough one for a lot of people because there are two really strong opinions on either side of this. Critics would say that this travel ban is going to offend good Muslims that are in these communities, that are in mosques with the bad Muslims, and make them less likely to cooperate with investigations or maybe call the police when they think something is up. How do you respond to that?
Well, look, I think Mike Flynn's point when the travel ban came up last year is quite right still, and that is there's a lot of ways to slice this problem. There's a lot of facets of it. One of it is clearly, as I just talked about, the human intelligence problem at the local level. But secondly, there is a genuine danger from many of these countries like Syria that we just don't know who's coming into the U.S. We don't know how good our vetting procedures are. So I think it's a tactical ban. It's a tactical assessment of certain of our procedures, and I think it's totally acceptable in that framework.
Where does the U.S. go from here now?
Well, gosh, I think for one thing, we've got to improve our intelligence collection with the United Kingdom and other EU states. You know, the Europeans are very, very protective of the privacy data on European citizens. I think domestically, we've got to have a hard conversation with our communities that are at risk and the local leaders and local imams about the need to report suspicious behavior to the public. And I think lastly, frankly, we've got to have tough conversations with Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states that sponsor radicalism in our own mosques, in our prisons, in our schools, and to which we've turned a blind eye for too long.
Yeah, it's such a complex problem, probably the most pressing one we have right now. Andrew, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks so much.
All right, it'll soon be easier for immigrants to get a driver's license. Kansas is launching a project to offer free translators when taking exams here in the United States. They will all be volunteers. 7 different languages will be available starting June 21st. Meatpacking plants, the largest employers in western Kansas, are drawing a diverse population as they employ a number of immigrants.
Well, Rob, the PC police at it again, changing a Hollywood classic of one word. Listen to this.
Dear Dr. Brown, on the night that I go back in time, you will be shot by terrorists.
Shot by terrorists there. That's the original scene from Back to the Future. But over the weekend, TBS edited out the words by terrorists and even digitally erased them from the letter in the shot. The edited version was created after 9/11. Outrage spilling over to Twitter. One movie fan tweeting this: "This is the world today. Don't ever hurt anyone's feelings, and we must edit culture as to not upset the terrorists. Maybe stop terrorizing."
Yeah, geez.
Good idea. Like that.
That's interesting. 25 minutes after the hour now, Prime Minister Theresa May saying there has been far too much tolerance of extremism as she vows to crack down on radical ideology that is plaguing the United Kingdom.
But could she actually be part of the problem? We discuss that next on Fox and Friends First.
At Men's Warehouse, get your designer looks from our exclusive collections. Now's the time, with designer suits just $279. Plus, buy one, get one free for more great styles. Men's Warehouse.
People magazine calls Megan Levy inspiring.
Senator, his name is Rex. That dog saved my life.
Elle raves. It's heartfelt and affecting.
He's not your dog. He's a Marine Corps dog.
Megan Levy packs a punch.
I'm trying to bring him home.
Megan Levy, rated PG-13, starts Friday.
If you love your dad, give him a meal that he'll truly appreciate. The Omaha Steaks Father's Day gift is filled with over $200 worth of great food for just $59.99. That's 70% off only on this special offer. The Omaha Steaks Father's Day gift includes either Omaha Steaks 4 juicy, tender 6-ounce filet mignons or a huge 30-ounce T-bone steak. Plus, you'll get 4 gourmet jumbo franks, 4 premium ground beef sliders, 4 creamy potatoes au gratin, and Omaha Steaks signature steak seasoning. Dessert is a decadent 2-pound New York cheesecake. Your order will be delivered straight to your home or the destination of your choice for the perfect gift. As a special thanks from us to you, if you order right now, we'll include 4 more premium Omaha Steaks ground beef sliders free. That's 8 total. The Omaha Steaks Father's Day gift, over a $200 value for just $59.99. Give Dad a gift he can appreciate. Give him the Father's Day gift from Omaha Steaks today.
Termites. Feasting on homes 24/7. We're on the move. Roger.
Hey, Rick, all good? Oh, yeah, we're good.
We're good. Termites never stop trying to get in. At Terminix, we never stop working to keep them out because they can cause thousands of dollars in damage. Text Terminix now to schedule a free termite inspection. As America's leading termite control provider, we'll do whatever it takes to stop them in their tracks. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. To schedule a free termite inspection, text Termite88 to 250250 and protect your home. And if they ever do come back, so will we. To schedule a free termite inspection, text Termite88 to 250250 or visit Terminix.com. Terminix, defenders of home.
Celebrate dads and grads. The Jewelry Exchange has titanium bands for $29, pearl sets $29, half-carat diamond studs $2.99, and men's diamond bands $3.99. Thousands of gift ideas factory direct. The Jewelry Exchange Direct.
For 10 years, my Tempur-Pedic has adapted to my weight and shape, so I sleep deeply and wake up ready to perform.
Now through June 11th, save $600 when you buy select Tempur-Pedic adjustable mattress sets. Find your exclusive retailer at TempurPedic.com.
It is Monday, June 5th. This is a Fox News alert for you. Terror in London breaking overnight. Police conducting more raids and arresting 2 more suspects in this weekend's deadly assaults.
The attackers now identified as ISIS claims responsibility. And good morning to you. You're watching Fox and Friends First. On this Monday morning, I'm Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Jackie Ibanez. President Trump now vowing to do whatever it takes to protect America.
This bloodshed must end. This bloodshed will end.
Here's a live look at London, where those raids are still happening at this hour.
We have live Fox News team coverage for you. Griff Jenkins with the president's response.
And we begin with Greg Palcott live on the ground in central London. Greg.
Hey, Rob, Jackie, we are just outside of the very tight police cordon kept around the terrorist site as they say they continue their intense forensic search of the area, and they are coming up with evidence behind this horrendous terror attack over the weekend. There were new raids today away from this location and 2 different locations, as well as raids yesterday. All told, police now say they have 12 in custody. They also say they know who the killers are. Take a listen.
We do believe we know who they are. We've made a number of arrests. We're trying to find out whether anybody was helping them and to understand the background to this attack as best we possibly can. The investigation must come first, and I will be focusing entirely on that.
There's already criticism, though, concerning one of the attackers. He is said to have been known to police for at least low-level recruiting in the extremist direction. ISIS, as you noted, as can be expected, claiming responsibility for all this. As the tales of horror continue, remember, the 3 attackers used a white van to smash into pedestrians on the London Bridge Saturday night, and then they hopped out of that van and stabbed their way through a nearby night spot area. 7 killed, 36 now said to be hospitalized, 21 of them said to be in critical condition. The first of the dead have been identified. She is 31-year-old Canadian Christine Archibald, said to be here to be with her fiancé. She was hit by that van. Along with the British, the other nationalities were targeted. It doesn't seem like any Americans were involved. There are tales of bravery, too, guys. People standing up to these terrorists, including one off-duty police officer, now in critical condition. He tried to get all 3 of them to stop what they were doing. And government fighting back to Theresa May, the prime minister here, saying she wants to tighten terror laws and restrict the terror space. Back to you, folks.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, Greg. In the wake of those deadly attacks, President Trump vowing to keep America safe and obliterate terrorism.
But leaders on the left want to stand in his way, criticizing policies he says are meant to protect the U.S.
Hey, Griff Jenkins live in Washington this morning with more on that. Hey, Griff.
Hey, Rob and Jackie, that's right. Speaking out for the first time since those attacks, President Trump vowing to do what is necessary to protect the American people.
This bloodshed must end. This bloodshed will end. As president, I will do what is necessary to prevent this threat from spreading to our shores and work every single day to protect the safety and security of our country, our communities, and our people.
Those comments followed a series of tweets in the immediate aftermath of the bloodshed, where he offered support to the people of London and the UK and renewed a call for his travel ban, where he said, quote, "We need to be smart, vigilant, and tough. We need the courts to give us back our rights. We need the travel ban as an extra level of safety." That tweet drawing criticism and sparking a debate on the Sunday talk shows. Former Vice President Al Gore weighed in on Fox News Sunday, saying the courts will do what's right.
Most of the attacks, both in England and here in the United States, have been by homegrown terrorists, and of course the courts will deal with the travel ban. They've already been struck down. We'll see what the Supreme Court does.
To recap, that ban would halt new visas from being issued in places like Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. And this follows the administration's push just last Thursday in court filings asking the Supreme Court to immediately reinstate the travel ban. As Vice President Gore said, the Supreme Court may tell us, although there is no timeline on when the court could or even if they will hear arguments. Guys?
All right, Griff, thanks so much.
Thanks, Griff.
Immediately after the London terror attack, President Trump tweeting, "We must stop being politically correct and get down to the business of security for our people. If we don't get smart, it will only get worse." MSNBC host Thomas Roberts is sparking outrage for then asking this question.
The president doesn't want us to be politically correct, right? So let's not be PC about this. Is the president trying to provoke a domestic terrorist attack? It seems like the president's trying to provoke something that he can politicize more for his own gain in America. Do you feel that way?
Well, Thomas Roberts later doubling down on Twitter, writing, "Based on POTUS tweets after London attack, it is a fair question, also considering established track record." There you have it.
UK Prime Minister Theresa May admitting there has been far too much tolerance of extremism in our country. This as she vows to introduce tougher punishments and a new crackdown on radical ideology. But is she part of the problem?
Here to weigh in is Jim Hansen. He is the president of the Security Studies Group, also led counterterrorism operations in the Army Special Forces. Jim, thanks so much for coming back this half hour. I guess just to start off, how do you feel about how Theresa May has handled this so far?
Well, she has a reputation for having cut some of the police budgets and been a little soft on immigration. But I got to be honest, I was very pleased with some of the things in her statement yesterday. She first admitted that they had been too tolerant of extremism. She said she was going to stop safe spaces for extremists in the UK. That is a direct call to the Muslim community to make sure they are not tolerating these guys in their own midst. And she also said that they're going to do increased custodial detention. You know, they've got a massive terrorism watch list. I got to be honest, I don't want them watching the terrorists. I want them scarfing them up, putting them in a dark hole and putting the screws to them so they can find out before these attacks happen that they're coming and stop them.
Well, so far they've already arrested 12 people in connection with what happened on Saturday night. That's a step in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you know, if you've got that terror watch list, let's round up as many as we can. You know, let me know when you get to 1,000 of them scarfed up, and then you could put those guys and start comparing their stories, find out who they're talking to, go through their social media, look at everything to find out who are the ones behind the larger radicalization, and let's get them out of play.
Well, she talked about social media as well, and addressing that. What do you think about going online and dealing with some of these networks? They have a huge network they're able to reach to some of these lone wolves, if you will, just sitting in their home, you know, in a dark room.
You know, I think it's a good idea to look for bad things happening on the internet. I'm a little concerned about the British government deciding what content should be seen by who. I believe George Orwell had a little bit to say about that, and it didn't go well. So I'm not a big fan of censorship, but I'm a big fan of surveillance and scrutiny of people we already know have bad tendencies. Yeah. Let's look at them and let's stop the next attack rather than cleaning up after it.
Well, and I think as we see more and more of these attacks and people get more and more frustrated and scared, you're going to see people move a little bit more in that direction where we're more comfortable with more surveillance, with rounding people up when they're just, you know, suspected of maybe wanting to do something. Whereas I think when we feel safe, people start to think, well, why do we have to be so strict? We start talking about things like unnecessary surveillance. But, I mean, I don't think anybody, if you've got nothing to hide, you shouldn't be worried about being surveilled, should you?
Well, there is a fine line between privacy and security that we don't want to cross. The United States has very strict rules, the Brits do too, about what you can do. But in the New York City, the police have actually had to stop surveillance of mosques because of lawsuits and threats from the Council on American Islamic Relations and other Islamist groups because they don't want to offend them. I'm sorry, your right to be offended does not trump the American and British people's right to be free from the radicals who are hanging out in those mosques.
Yeah, and to survive.
Should we have surveillance on those mosques here in the U.S.?
I think we need to. There are places where if you actually heard what they're saying inside the mosques, you'd be horrified. After the Orlando attacks where a terrorist hit a gay nightclub, he had been in places where they were saying the penalty under Islam for homosexuality is death. That was being preached in mosques in the United States. That's unacceptable, and we need to be looking there and telling them that can't happen.
That is absolutely the problem. All right, thank you so much for coming on, Jim.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, the time now, 38 minutes after the hour. The mainstream media appearing to push their own narrative. Some outlets look like they're choosing to cover things like climate change and Russia more than terror attacks. So are they missing the big picture? We're going to have a fair and balanced debate coming up.
Plus, a police officer who stole the hearts of millions as he danced hand in hand with young girls in the crowd of Ariana Grande's benefit concert. We have that next on Fox and Friends First.